Warning has been issued. There's a look at kind of the broader scope of thunderstorm activity in our area. Again, for the time being, not seeing a whole lot in terms of widespread development. So, and we'll go ahead and go back to the wall there, Christian, and you just pop me back up here on the screen. But again, generally speaking, we continue to watch this one tornado warned storm as it moves off to the east near the strong Huttig areas that are off to the east. But the actual tornado warning itself is of Union County. Again, this is an area that has continued to kind of spin up briefly here in the last few minutes. I'm going to step off the screen for just a second so we can take a closer look at some areas of possible rotation that could be kind of wrapped up within this storm. Again, just kind of a quick look at some of the different features in the environment, and there's a look at what we call the shear rate. But again, we're looking at an area generally along and south of Highway 82. I'm going to go ahead and circle it for you in just a second. But just this general area right here is kind of where we're seeing this broad area of rotation. Again, this may not be a tornado warning that hangs out for a terribly long period of time, and it may be kind of tough to see in these spots. But just a reminder that this is a tornado warned storm. You need to get to your safe place, interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, this is a tornado about 10 miles east of Junction City, moving northeast about 45 miles per hour. And again, this is within an environment where the tornado warned storm is kind of riding along the warm front itself, where wind shear is a little bit more maximized in our environment, and that's what's driving a lot of what we're seeing currently. So here's a look at the live storm tracker Doppler radar. As we mentioned, again, you can see the new severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect also for portions of looks like Calhoun and Bradley counties in South Arkansas. And again, a lot of these areas continuing to run into some violent, heavy rainfall. That's been our biggest problem, at least here in the short term, with a lot of these storms. And Christian, if you can pop me up here on the wall with links too, we can kind of follow this. Yeah, there we go. And you can see the flashing red box. That's our active tornado warning in portions of Union County. And for those that are just joining us, this is the first tornado warning of the night. We haven't really seen a whole lot of significant heavy thunderstorm activity in terms of severity and severe thunderstorms in our area so far today. But this flashing red box, first tornado warning in the Arklamas, so to speak. We've had a lot of damage, storm damage across portions of northwestern Louisiana as we've worked through the early part of the daytime hours. And as we've transitioned into the evening, again, this is our first tornado warning that has been issued in our area. Again, goes till about 8:15 tonight. I don't know if we'll have it for that full half hour. Again, rather quick moving storm that will eventually move outside of this particular area. And I'm going to step out off the screen for just a second so we can get a closer look at some of the statistics and some of the information regarding this particular tornado warning. Again, for those that are joining us on NBC and Fox, just be aware that this is a tornado warned storm, and again, a very heavy rain-producing thunderstorm that continues across portions of Louisiana at this hour. Again, let's switch back over to links 2, Christian, if we can, and switch over to the other links box system so we can see what's going on in our area. So actually, let's just go ahead and run out of links 1. And let's just do this, make it really, really simple. But either way, you can see the tornado warned storms as they continue to pop up, or the tornado warned storm. 8:15 is the specifics there for this particular system. And again, looking for areas of rotation, Walker, it's been kind of an area of just obscured heavy rainfall. So for folks that are in this particular area, they want to be in their safe place right now, right along Highway 82 and point southward.
Absolutely, Jared. And again, what we're mainly focusing on through the rest of this evening is going to be the potential for any quick spin-up tornadoes that goes for along the line itself of the actual cold front, or some more of the isolated activity that's just ahead of the front. We've seen a few different tornado warnings just to the west of our area in that same regard, and so that's going to continue to be the main area of focus through the rest of this evening. But outside some of the severe threats that we've been talking about, the damaging winds, the isolated hail, the quick spin-up tornado, the flash flood risk is also a primary concern, especially areas that see the same areas, or areas see the same heavy rainfall for an extended period of time, Jared.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these areas pick up some 3.5 inches of rain, and that's also creating some issues as you've got this heavy rainfall that's set up across eastern sections of Union County, central and eastern sections of Union County, and that's where we're seeing the biggest issues. You guys can pop me back up on the wall so we can kind of point out what we're talking about here, and let's keep this shot up as we continue to keep an eye on this tornado-warned storm. Again, here's the specifics back behind me, so I'm going to go ahead and step over to the other side of the screen. Again, radar-indicated tornado near Highway 82. So again, folks heading west out of Ashley County toward El Dorado, probably want to pull over and find yourself a safe spot. Don't pull over an underpass or things of that nature. Try to find a grocery store or a gas station or somewhere that they can let you in and find shelter from this storm. Again, possible tornado embedded in this area of very heavy rainfall. It's going to be tough to see. There's also that severe thunderstorm warning, some damaging wind gusts off to the north, and then back out to the south. Again, still swaths of heavy rain remain a possibility as well. All of this moving east, again, not expecting that the tornado threat has been quite isolated so far through the afternoon and evening hours, at least in our area. The environment has not necessarily been overly ripe, although the conditions were favorable all day for severe weather activity, and we knew that we were going to run into some potential this afternoon and evening. But so far, it's been rather slow and kind of hesitant to see a lot of widespread significant organization. So this is our first tornado warning evening. Again, a reminder that a tornado watch remains in effect for the western counties and parishes until 10, eastern counties and parishes until 2 a.m. So it's going to be a late night for you folks. May see the severe weather threat in before then, but the big focus is again going to be within this general cluster of storms for the possibility of some brief embedded tornadoes. Brief doesn't necessarily mean weak. It just means that they may not be on the ground for an extended period of time. Again, this is the only warning we have back out to the south and west. It's just heavy rainfall. There's not even any severe thunderstorm warnings back to the west. So it's really just these two warnings in southern Arkansas as this development continues eastward. If this tornado warnings expires or is canceled early, we will send you back to the programming as quickly as possible. I know it's season finale of The Voice tonight, and I know there's probably some frustrated folks in that regard. But again, with this particular storm impacting higher populated areas, central and eastern sections of Union County, El Dorado, you are not in this tornado warning. Junction City, you are not in this tornado warning. It's for areas east along Highway 82. And the other thing that we are going to run into here in the short term is that the National Weather Service in Shreveport is responsible for issuing this warning. But if it moves into portions of southern Calhoun or southern Bradley County, specifically southern Bradley County, the National Weather Service in Little Rock would have to issue a new tornado warning for that area. When it moves east into the National Weather Service in Jackson's area, Ashley County, they will be responsible for issuing a tornado warning. So we've got a few different kind of decisions that will have to be made with this storm as it progresses eastward. Also still watching some of these structures off to the south that have these little tails on the bottom side of your screen. I know you may not be seeing that because of the severe weather ticker, but there's still some areas where we're kind of seeing these little commas and these little appendages kind of stretch back, and that could also be areas that in theory could develop tornadically over the next little bit. Latest update from the National Weather Service has trimmed that tornado warning a little bit. Now it looks like the circulation has crawled north of Highway 82 and will generally stay along and south of Highway 63. So here's 63 and Highway 82 in eastern sections of Union County. Again, it's going to be moving into southern Bradley County and far northwestern sections of Ashley County as well. Severe thunderstorm. Go ahead.
Miles east of El Dorado, moving northeast at 50 miles an hour.
50 miles an hour on the actual tornado, possible tornado itself. So again, that's moving at highway speed very, very quickly. So if you're in the path of this storm, make sure that you're taking cover. If you're right along the Ouachita River in northeastern sections of Union County, safe place now. Interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible.
And Jared, I would likely expect some type of a warning to be continued into southern portions of Bradley County. That same tornado warning that you're talking about now, they'll likely pass it over to the folks out of Little Rock. So don't be too surprised to see that warning if it pops up.
So for folks in southern Bradley County, don't be surprised if a new warning is going to be needed in just right across the Ouachita River, essentially here in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. Still watching all this development back out to the south and west. I'm going to step off the screen for just a few seconds, kind of readjust the camera, so to speak, so we can take a little bit better look at some of the stuff that we're seeing off to our south. Again, not necessarily tornadic in any stretch, but We do have other thunderstorms in our area, and the environment is still quite conducive for severe weather across most of the region as well. If you're joining us on social media, I know our Facebook live streams should be up and going. And again, joining us on NBC 10 and Fox 14, there's the new tornado warning. This is going to include also portions of Drew County. And Walker, if you have some statistics and some specifics on that, go ahead and feel free to read away.
Yes, Jared. So this tornado warning does include Bradley, Calhoun, and Drew County until 8:30 p.m. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near or 15 miles northwest of Huttig, moving northeast at 50 miles an hour. So you want to make sure that you're in your safe place, whether you're within that tornado warning, that red flashing box, or the severe thunderstorm warning that's already ongoing for 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. You're going to want to find your safe place. And a lot of folks don't necessarily know what that is. That's going to be the interiormost portion of your home, away from any outside walls, windows, or doors. Some type of an interior closet is always a good bet, or some type of an interior bathroom. If you need to grab some type of padding, whether it be a mattress, some blankets, pillows, those are never a bad idea. And as Jared was mentioning beforehand, these do have a very quick nature of spinning up or spinning back down. And so that's what we have to monitor through the rest of the evening. As Jared was also mentioning, with a lot of the isolated storms ongoing in the area, they can also spin up rather quickly or spin down rather quickly. That's why it's pretty much a touch and go basis, and it's very hard to see because there's a lot of mess around the area as well. So heavy rainfall is going to be of concern, and as previously mentioned, if some areas see continued heavy rainfall for an extended period of time, the flash flood risk will also begin to become a little bit more of a threat than, say, some of the other severe areas, but it's really a multi-pronged approach as we go through the rest of the evening. So folks seeing some heavy rainfall around the I-20 corridor, all of that's non-severe as of this moment. That could change given the nature of how storms have been so far this evening. Back in South Arkansas, again, that tornado warning is in effect until 8:30 p.m. and has now seen that extension into Drew County all the way from northern portions of Union County. Jared?
Yeah, switching over to our live storm tracker Doppler radar, the National Weather Service is indicating the possibility of maybe even a tornado debris signature with this particular this particular radar sweep. So I'm switching to different radar modes. We're going to kind of get a closer look at what's going on here in eastern Union County. What that basically means is that the radar itself may be actually detecting debris. So again, just a quick, I don't want to go too in depth, but this area that we're circling here north of Highway 82 is basically just an area where the radar itself doesn't quite know what it's picking up in terms of signal. So usually if it's those darker reds and purples, it usually indicates, okay, we're getting pretty consistent rain, maybe some hail, things of that nature. But when you start seeing those lighter colors on that particular radar mode, it usually means that you're getting some irregular objects in the sky, whether it be tree debris, whether it be structural debris or something along that nature. And as you take a closer look, and I'm going to zoom way in on this across Port, it looks like a pretty strong area from New London Road west near Pigeon Hill Road. I know this is County Road 22 and the Morro Bay Highway on the northern edge of town. That's Highway 63, by the way. So this is a county as well. But again, looking at our radar, that's what it looks like. National Weather Service in Shreveport's radar has a pretty good signature of just those reds and greens together. So I'm going to kind of keep that area circled until we get a new radar swipe. Starting to get some heavier rainfall here at the West Monroe studios. For those that are tuning in here in West Monroe, no severe warnings in effect. It's just some heavy rainfall at this point. But this is our possible tornado. Again, radar indicated at this point, but the National Weather Service is also keeping an eye on and maybe possibly being able to radar confirm this, meaning that there was a tornado on the ground or there is a tornado on the ground in this area. Again, right now, just radar indicated north of Highway 82. New tornado warning, as we mentioned, now in effect for portions of Drew and Bradley County. So again, unfortunately, we're going to be on the air with you for at least a little bit. And for those that are wanting to watch The Voice, again, I know that you probably would like to see that. And unfortunately, you can catch it tomorrow, or hopefully we can get you back to it later. But this is where we're stuck now with severe weather across portions of South Arkansas. And specifically on that note, for those that are watching us on NBC, our transmitter, our NBC transmitter, transmitter is in strong Huddig. So there's a very good likelihood as this storm moves over the transmitter site here soon that you're probably going to lose us on NBC either way, just because of the ferocity of these storms that'll be moving kind of right over a very unfavorable area in terms of our transmitting power here at KTVE. So just kind of be aware of that if you lose signal on KTVE, we're on KARD as well. We cross-reference with both stations because some areas get us, some areas don't. So that's why we're on both, if those are wondering why we are on both this evening.
As far as what we're expecting through the rest of the evening, a lot of folks are asking us online, is the severe threat still available? Is it still open? When does it close? And it will not close for the next several hours, despite not really seeing much through the first half of the day. There was plenty to be had in eastern portions of Texas and extreme western portions of Louisiana. So as far as the rest of this evening goes, we likely don't see that severe threat close until very late tonight or early Wednesday morning, and that includes the entirety of the Arklamis. Now, some portions may see the clearing up a bit sooner than others. As previously mentioned, the western half of the Arklamis sees the tornado watch until 10 p.m. The eastern half sees it until 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So clearly some discrepancies there. And Jared, you're highlighting that rotation pretty well.
Yeah, New London Road, areas just southwest of the Caryville Landing community. For those that we're zoomed way in eastern sections of Union County, and I know the map gets really, really tough to see. And I know we're getting into very hyper-specific areas, but this is in the grand scheme of things, tornadoes only impact a small area. You're talking about a pin drop on a map is the only area that are going to be impacted by a possible tornado, and it's this area right here. Here's the McGlinden Mill community and the New London community. In fact, this is New London Road here, and again, Caryville Landing. These are small communities in northeastern sections of Union County. This is southern Bradley County, and stretching up into Drew County to the top right-hand side of your screen. There is our reds and greens that we talk about with possible tornadoes. Very typical during the springtime months, and in the winter we're pretty typically used to seeing them as well. Saw the severe weather threat a couple of weeks ago a little bit farther southward. I'll be honest with you, this was a little bit of a surprise seeing a tornado-warned storm this far northward. Better ingredients were expected to be south all evening, and so as we've gone through the evening hours, just these first two tornado warnings out, again, specifically for Union, Bradley, and Drew counties. Two different tornado warnings, but both for the same storm. Again, very heavy rainfall within this circulation, so I don't want to stay on this for too terribly long, just simply because, again, a lot of these areas have seen 2-3 inches of rain, so it would be almost impossible to see a tornado at this point. So make sure that you're just in your safe place, away from windows and doors, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. That's a look at the actual radar itself, what we call the traditional reflectivity mode. And again, lots of purples and dark colors, so it would be basically impossible to see anything at this point. Just be in your safe place and sheltered. And we'll continue to keep an eye on any development back out to the south and west. But these storms are starting to move a little bit, which is going to help the heavy rain threat. But obviously the conditions still favorable, at least somewhat, here in the short term for tornadic activity. So again, with that new latest radar update, I will say that the signature, whatever you want to call it, is not as pronounced, but still seeing those reds and greens together in that very poorly circled area across portions of Union County. Should be crossing into Bradley County here shortly, staying generally southeast of Highway 63. So I'm going to go ahead and put the tornado warning back out on the screen there. And like I said, Walker, this is an area that I would have expected to see most of our tornadic activity a little bit farther south, where the more favorable environment's been. But this is a brief area that we'll have to continue to kind of stick with until the warnings are canceled.
Right, and I'm looking at other rotations, Jared, nothing really spinning up further south as well. We talked about that over the last several evenings, the fact that South Arkansas had a little bit less of a threat, but that never really matters too much. As long as you have some type of a threat, you could see, in theory, some type of a quick spin-up tornado so far this evening. But again, looking at live storm tracker Doppler radar, noticing a lot of heavy rainfall around the region as well, but most likely, as of now, this tornado warning is going to take up the majority of our attention over the next 30 minutes or so. Now, the time is only only 8 p.m. This warning goes until about 8:30. Now, currently speaking, a lot of this activity starts to work its way eastward, but also slightly northward as it's pushed east, which is why that angling of the tornado warning is over towards the north and east there. And again, that possible tornado is around this little white circle that we have here prior, that potential tornado, some very heavy rainfall likely in this area as well. This is really a part of like the greater line, that greater cold front that's moving through the area. So as I was talking about beforehand, there's two areas that we have to focus on this afternoon and evening. It was the isolated storms ahead of the main front, but also the main front itself. And this is really a good reason why. Along what we call a cold front, it in times can become what we call a QLCS, or a fairly strong line of storms that could see a quick spin-up tornado, and that's exactly what we have on our hands. Now, further to the east, a lot of this stuff that you see behind me that's not associated with this tornado warning, that's some more of the isolated and scattered activity that we have to keep an eye on ahead of the system, but nonetheless, the actual cold front itself proving to be a little bit more problematic. Now, Jared, I don't know if we're seeing any updates as of now, but still heavy rainfall across the area, no doubt.
Well, I'm also kind of keeping an eye. We've got another storm in southwestern Ouachita Parish that, and to be honest with you, we were kind of looking at through our live radar just to make sure that something wasn't kind of sneaking up on us back to the south and west. So we're going to keep tabs on that particular storm as long as we have that, and then the tornado warning storm as it now moves into southern Bradley County. So make sure that you're continuing to stay sheltered.
Right, and it's really just the general of things, especially around this time of the year. We see very warm temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s, and that's what really helps drive some of that severe threat and also drives the quick spin up and spin down nature of some of these storms. That's why we always have to go away from the active tornado warning at times to look at some other storms just to make sure that nothing's trying to sneak up on us, because that's very well a possibility through the rest of the evening. Now, I don't know if we have the future tracker or the touch tracker on just yet, but as of now, some of the heavier rainfall likely continues to work its way eastward. In terms of what we're expecting through the rest of the evening for South Arkansas, obviously we weren't necessarily expecting tornadoes. The potential was going to be there regardless of what happened through the rest of the evening, but we're going to have to pay close attention to this area in particular, as well as the rest of the line as it continues further south, because granted, we're only looking at a very small portion of the area as of this point. El Dorado finally starting to clear some of the heavier rainfall that's likely sat there for quite some time, and that's another problem that I mentioned beforehand, the fact that we have flash flood risk across the area, with areas that see the same thunderstorm activity over and over again. If you just think about the short period of time we've been on the air already, some of the heavier rainfall, well, not really moving out of eastern portions of Union County, so it wouldn't be too surprising to see the flash flood threat in some of these places start to uptick over the next couple of hours as well. Outside the tornadoes, the damaging wind threat will still be there as well, even with non-severe storms or non-warned storms. That can happen from time to time. If you rewind to just 2 weeks ago, we saw plenty of storms very late at night that were not severe warned, but as you still saw about 60 to 65 mile an hour wind gusts with some of these. And now we're looking back at the velocity. Jared's starting to zoom in here, and this is the main area of rotation. He's going to circle that here in just a second. And again, some of the reds and the greens, and what that means is basically shows that rotation of the winds moving to and away from the radar. The green winds are the winds that are moving towards the radar. The red winds are the ones moving away, and thus you can kind of see that general circulation that we're mainly concerned with as of this point. I think it's officially crossing over into Bradley County now.
It is.
And this warning still goes until about 8:30 p.m. So it's only 8:04, potentially continuing this warning for about another 26 minutes or so. And then from there on out, it could potentially be extended again. So we're not going to speculate too much on what happens. We simply report on what is happening. But nonetheless, Jared, have you really seen any other rotation anywhere else just yet?
No, I mean, it's just this that area that is also kind of embedded in just a crummy area of very heavy rainfall. So it'll be really tough to see anything. Our live storm tracker Doppler radar has that in southern Bradley County to the southeast of Highway 63, and that's all the information that we can really run with right now. Back out to the southwest, we're also keeping an eye on a storm that is moving into southwestern sections of Ouachita Parish that at times has maybe shown some areas of rotation. That would be headed closer to the Monroe-West Monroe area, but it has the structure, but really hasn't started to spin or rotate rather aggressively, at least here in the short term. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. Again, for those, I know we're keeping an eye on a lot of our social media comments just for weather reports and things of that nature. I know a lot of people are ticked off about the voice. This is the last time I'm going to address this. We're going to be on here as long as there's tornado warnings. You're going to miss the voice. You can watch it tomorrow. That's the last time we're going to talk about it. That's it. We're going to be on the air. You can call whoever you want, scream at whoever you want, leave whatever voicemails you want, do whatever you got to do. But we're going to be on the air until these tornado warnings are expired. As soon as they're done, we'll be more than happy to send you back to programming. But for folks in portions of Union County and specifically in Bradley County, is these areas right here now moving into Bradley and Drew County, so Warren stretching southward along Highway 63. These are our tornado warned areas, and these are the spots that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Make sure that you're in your safe place, interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. That circulation is, again, wrapped in very heavy rainfall. We don't want you trying to take pictures of anything. We don't want your storm reports. We want you sheltered, just in your safe place, away from all the windows and doors and flying debris or any kind of potential in that regard. We know that tornadoes impact a very, very small area. These are large tornado warnings that are forcing a lot of folks to have to take cover, and it's only going to impact a very small area. And yeah, there's also the chance that there's not a tornado at all. But with the warnings being issued, just make sure that you heed those warnings. We continue to keep an eye on other storms as well. In fact, if you want to go back over to the wall for just a second, I'll keep an eye on what's going on off to the south and west. Walker?
Right, Jared. And so what we really have to do through the rest of the evening, as mentioned, we talk about the line itself, but also the isolated activity. But there's two areas of focus. We have to look at the storms themselves to try to see some of the rotation that they have. But even without looking at the rotation, looking at the just general structure of the storms really helps out. And so whenever we look along the line, maybe you see a little bit of an inflow notch, like we like to call it, something that looks fairly similar to this potentially. It's a little bit very messy, as we were previously discussing. The fact the circulation's a little bit weak. So potentially sometimes along this line, though, you can see a little bit of an inflow notch, and that could be a telltale sign. Potentially there's rotation in that area, some type of circulation is trying to develop. But also with the storms that are way ahead of this line, they still resemble what we call supercell structure. And so that was going to be the concern for a large portion of the evening for folks just in front of the front that have not yet to see it. You could likely see some type of weak supercell structure or stronger ones start to develop, and those are prone to spawn quick spin-up tornadoes as well. And so that's why it's always a good idea to focus on not just one subject or one area in particular, but a whole plethora of areas, and that being, of course, the radar itself, but also the structure and general structure of some of these thunderstorms. Now, as of now, Warren still seeing some heavy rainfall still included in that tornado warning. As mentioned, it goes till 8:30 p.m. tonight. Likely doesn't expire for a good bit of time here, considering it's only 8:08. As far as the rest of the region goes, though, Hamburg likely still seeing some light shower activity, not included in this tornado warning. And as previously mentioned, under any point in time, if you find yourself in somewhere that's fairly familiar within one of these tornado warnings, or potentially in a severe thunderstorm warning, one of these yellow boxes, you want to go ahead and get into your safe place. Regardless of what you're actually seeing at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You could see almost no rainfall on that tornado try to sneak up on you, that potential tornado within a warning or some sort. And so that's why you want to make action as soon as you get put somewhere close or within one of these tornado warnings. Now, that's going to be the most interior portion of your home if you have some type of a basement. I know not a lot of folks around here have basements, but if you do, that's going to be your best bet. Outside of that, it's going to be a very interior portion of your home, being some type of a bathroom or maybe some type of a closet. Those are always a good bet as well. But staying away from windows or doors or any type of outside wall is going to be your best bet as well. So maybe you don't have something that's interior, just stay away from the exterior. That's bottom line. You want to put as much distance in between you and the outside as possible, because the tornado is outside. As far as the rest of the heavy rainfall goes, it really hasn't moved that much as far as we've been on the air. And as previously discussed, El Dorado saw some very heavy rainfall for a good period of time, so the flash flood risk is going to remain some type of a concern
Walker,
in some way. Yes, sir.
Though, take a look at this area right here. Is kind of that bounded weak echo region. Could be a possible area that we could see rotation there. That could be your possible tornado in theory.
Absolutely, and that goes to show what we were just talking about, the fact that we're not looking necessarily at the colors, but the structure of the storm itself. And so what we were seeing there is something that may be called the bounded weak echo region. We call it the beware. It's just some weather jargon, whatnot, but nonetheless, that structure itself could provide some type of evidence that there could be a potential tornado or some type of a weak circulation in place. And again, we're looking at the live storm tracker Doppler radar's ability to see some of the rotation as of now. The reds and greens are still there, regardless of how well defined it is. the tornado warning is still into effect, and we're still noticing some type of rotation with this storm system. Really not moving all that much as of now. It has worked its way out of northern Union back into southern Bradley, and will likely continue to move over towards the north and east, potentially working its way all the way into southwestern Drew County if it holds its rotation there. That's another problem some storms have had and some storms haven't. Some storms have been able to stay together fairly well, stay relatively undisturbed by other storms in the environment, and thus they last for a longer period of time. Now, something like this can last for a long period of time, or it could be impacted by a lot of other storm activity around it, and if that happens, then it obviously can try to ruin that circulation that's currently in place. So a lot of different things that we take into account here, regardless of what we're actually seeing. More storm potential will maintain through the rest of this evening, even into early tomorrow morning. Now, the general area of thinking for now is for this cold front to continue to parade towards the south and east, likely passing through the Monroe region. I know a lot of folks in Monroe right now are seeing heavy rainfall. That's not even the main part of the storm system at this point. That's just isolated stuff ahead of the main cold front. The main cold front likely continues a little bit further west, likely a little bit further west along the I-20 corridor, potentially reaching to Ruston. I'm not too quite sure about that yet, but as mentioned, until that cold front passes all the way through the area, gets to the Mississippi Valley, and eventually exit, that severe threat is going to maintain for a large portion of the day as well.
All right, thanks, Walker. And again, as you see these storms popping up across the area, you can also still see that we're in a kind of a tough radar spot. And if you know this area quite well, you know that southern Bradley County, while we have our own radar, and that's great, it can see a lot of things that other National Weather Service radars can't see. The farther and farther you get away from the radar, you get into these tough spots where it's really, really tough to see anything. And so National Weather Service offices are issuing tornado warnings for these small circulations that could be producing a tornado, but we're only seeing things about 1,000 feet up in the air, and tornadoes happen at ground level. So that runs into some issues in terms of trying to see something that may or may not be there. And again, this is an area that we have circled, and I'm going to kind of zoom in so you can take a closer look at an area that doesn't seem much, but again, keep in mind that this is elevated, and all these reds and greens together are showing a twisting of the wind. Again, not necessarily as strong as it was earlier. Hopefully we can maybe even get these tornado warnings canceled if this storm can weaken enough and get out of this favorable environment, move into an area where we really aren't seeing much. That would be more ideal. We could get you back to programming, and hopefully the severe weather threat would become progressively more isolated. This warning itself goes until 8:30, but with every passing radar scan from the National Weather Service, they kind of look and reassess and go, okay, is there still a possible tornado? Again, our radar shows those reds and greens combined south of Highway 63. On that note, this red flashing box for Union County, that tornado warning has been canceled. It'll drop off the screen here in just a minute. We just had kind of the update from the National Weather Service in Little Rock, and I'm going to read out that information for you real quickly. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Ingalls, about 15 miles northwest of West Crossett. So West Crossett, 15 miles to the northwest, moving northeast about 45 miles per hour. Again, this warning remains in effect for about another 15 minutes or so. Again, continuing to trail off to the north and east where we're seeing those reds and greens together, so make sure that you stay sheltered. Folks along Highway 63, again, southwest of Hermitage, you are technically in the tornado warning, so make sure that you are in your safe place there. Again, tornado watches remain in effect until 2 a.m. And also for those that are seeing this red flashing box in Union County or are still getting the alerts in Union County, that tornado warning has been canceled. It should drop off the map here shortly. Heavy rainfall is still a big concern. The area circled is really our last area of where we think that a tornado would be forming if there is a tornado. Again, it's dark outside, a lot of heavy rainfall, so again, trying to see something that is also in a very heavily forested area. If you know South Arkansas, you know that there's a lot of trees and things of that nature, so it'd be pretty impossible to see anything anyway. But just make sure you're sheltered. Southwestern sections of Drew County, just Monticello on the top right-hand side of your screen, you are not under the tornado warning, but southwestern sections of Drew County, again, you are under that tornado warning until 8:30. Got another 15, 16 minutes or so as this storm continues to kind of recycle. Some get a little bit stronger and some get a little bit weaker. I would really like to see this continue to get progressively weaker, but you see those reds and greens together. And also still keep in mind that our radar is still shooting pretty high up in the atmosphere, up to about 9,000 feet here. So again, we're kind of in no man's land ourselves, trying to see what we're seeing in terms of a possible tornado. And so just make sure you're staying sheltered. Damaging wind gusts are also a possibility. There's that tornado warning that finally popped off the map. But damaging wind gusts are also certainly a possibility within this area as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. And I know that we're switching back and forth between a lot of different radar modes, so just trying to get the best vantage point of this storm as it continues to move off to the northeast very quickly, about 50 miles per hour. So moving about as quickly as a car will on the highway. That means that your lead time is going to be more limited as you move off to the north and east as we head through the rest of the morning. The rest of the evening. Tornado watch is in effect till 2 a.m. for a lot of these areas. Again, this is the region that we actually expected conditions to be a little less favorable. I know we're repeating ourselves and we're saying the same thing over and over, but there are a lot of folks that are just getting to a TV, that just got the alert on their phones or what have you, and we have to relay that information for folks that are just now getting to the information. And again, what we're seeing is now north of Highway 82, possible tornadoes south of Highway 63. If you know somebody driving from Hermitage to El Dorado or some of the surrounding areas, make sure that they're pulled over and into a safe spot now, although the bulk of this storm now looks to be crawling to the south and east of Highway 63. Again, the last possible tornado signature that was issued by the National Weather Service had it near the Ingalls community. You can still see the reds and greens there. Again, I know this is a big jumbled radar mess. The reds and greens there on our live radar continuing to trail to the northeast. Again, here's southeastern sections of Drew County. I'll zoom back in just a little bit, try to get some of the road names. Bradley County Road 2 and Dubose Road, some of these areas. The Weary Rest Church Road is right here. So again, very rural sections of southern Bradley County, but here's Bradley County Road 25 South, and then Highway 64 up there on the top left-hand side of your screen. Walker, do you have anything new for us?
No, not at the moment, Jared. Nothing new just yet. Obviously, this is the main area of concern. And as previously mentioned, things can spin up very quickly or spin down very quickly, so it's not too surprising to see a lot of fluctuation with this circulation just in general. It's pretty typical, even for a strong tornado that is actually on the ground. I can still see some fluctuations within that circulation. So even in this case, that's going to happen almost every time. Now, this is still generally the area of circulation that we're working at. It's south of Hermitage as of this point. You look at some of the reflectivity, it does look kind of funky. Still some heavy rainfall around Hermitage, but again, that area of circulation is a little bit further south. Now, Hermitage still included, at least parts of the area included within that tornado warning, still southwest of Monticello, and I think that's an important thing to note, Jared, because if this thing holds itself together, potentially, let's just throw it out there, it sees another tornado warning, maybe it holds itself together, and given the general idea and the shape and direction of it, it wouldn't be too surprising to see Monticello potentially included. So that's why I always give it a good idea. If you're in the tornado, number one, the tornado warning, you likely need to be in your safe place. But even if you're immediately around the area, it's not necessarily a bad idea if you have some free time on your hands, obviously. But some of the heavier rainfall is still going to be of concern. Areas right along 425 included in that tornado warning as well. Some of the heavier rain still setting up shop, but that potential circulation still a little bit what we call upstream. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be southwest there, Jared.
Yeah, and so obviously the tornado warning goes for about another 12 minutes or so. I at this point don't know if we're going to have another tornado warning issued farther downstream for Drew County. I will say that this storm looks progressively weaker as we've moved in, and I know a lot of folks wondering, well, if it looks weaker, why are you not going back to programming? Well, because there's still a tornado warning issued. And with these storms, we had a storm earlier today in northwestern Louisiana, did some damage, destroyed 10 homes. It recycled, didn't have anything, and then dropped another tornado about 5-10 minutes later. So that's where, when you still see these reds and greens and you still have that storm structure, sometimes that it's almost like the storm takes a breath and it's exhaling and kind of catching itself, gathering itself, and then it reorganizes again, and it can develop those potential tornadoes all over again. So that's why the warning remains in effect. And also, again, to be honest with you, it's just in a terrible place in terms of trying to see anything happening at ground level. So a lot of this is erring on the side of caution for a possible tornado that is in a rural area, in a very heavily forested area, and in some areas close to the river valley. The Ouachita River is right here. So again, all of these combinations working against trying to see something at ground level. And unfortunately, it means us, the National Weather Service, everybody has has to work together to try to see it together. So that's kind of where we're stuck at this point. And with that, as the radar makes its next calibration, I'll switch back over to the National Weather Service and Little Rock's radar. Still keeping that same circled area southeast of Highway 63. It'll move northeast into southwestern sections of Drew County. And here's Highway 278. So again, interests along and south of Highway 278 also included in this new tornado warning or this current tornado warning for about another 10 minutes or so. Continue to keep an eye on just other thoughts from the National Weather Service if they're seeing other storms, and just kind of stretching back out. We also have
Jared, it
actually,
looks like
there's a new tornado warning.
Yep.
Yeah. This one has just been issued for Grant and LaSalle parishes. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Timber Trails. That's 10 miles northeast of Boyce, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. So this is in the way southern sections of the Arklamis. And so we're going to leave you folks in South Arkansas for just a second and head down to the Fort Polk radar and a new tornado warned storm. And so now we have a tornado warning in the far northern reaches of the Arklamis, and we have a tornado warning in the far southern reaches of the Arklamis. And so for those folks that are wondering why are we on NBC and Fox, Fox is in the reaches farther south, NBC reaches farther north, so our NBC viewers need to see that South Arkansas storm, and our Fox viewers need to see this Grant Parish storm. So that's kind of the reason why we're on both channels at this point, is try to get as many people as possible informed. This possible tornado is going to be near the Creola community. This is going to be west of 167. I'm just looking at, just trying to get my bearings. Here's Racetrack Road and Stewart Lake Road and some of the surrounding area, the Prospect community. So this red and green area here is where a possible tornado is set up, and with the latest radar refresh, you can see that as well. South of the Bentley community, this is Oak Grove in Grant Parish. There's two different Oak Groves, so I don't want folks in northeastern Louisiana, north of the I-20 corridor up in East and West Carroll parishes panicking on us. This is a different Oak Grove. Here's the Bentley community. Here's Pollock and Fishville. These are all areas that are included in this new tornado warning until 9 o'clock.
And Jared, you briefly mentioned earlier that we're going to err on the side of caution no matter what storm it is, and that is exactly what I wanted to reiterate, because if it was your area under a tornado warning, you'd want us to cover it. So we're going to have to bounce back and forth between different warnings as we get them through the rest of the evening, and that's why it was a good point to mention the fact that things can spin up relatively quickly, and that's what kind of happened to us on some of the southern parishes there.
Yeah, so this is what we call the shear rate. It's a lot of technical jargon, but basically where you see the brighter colors, these are the concerning areas. Where you start seeing these yellows turning to reds, that's where we're seeing the strongest areas of rotation. And if there is a tornado, that's where our tornado would likely be. To the southwest of the Bentley community, here's again Creola, here's Rock Hill Road, James Branch Road, and right smack dab in the middle of portions of Grant Parish is where this new storm has started to pop up. And again, as you zoom out just a little bit, it kind of gives you a little bit broader perspective of the storm itself. And these reds and greens where my cursor is sitting right here, that's our new tornado warning. Walker, if you'll keep an eye on that South Arkansas storm, and there's another tornado warning also back to our west. So activity has started to pick up here the last hour or so, and that's where we're starting to see now two different tornado warnings, one just outside of our area and then two in the area, one again across southern Arkansas. That storm is starting to at least look like it's weakening, and then we have this new tornado warning for Grant and LaSalle parishes again until 9 o'clock tonight.
I'm looking back at the tornado warning in South Arkansas, Jared. It looks about the same as when you left it beforehand. That weak circulation is still relatively there, so to speak. And so folks that are still within that tornado warning need to stay in their safe place. And that's going to be the interior-most portion of your home. So you're not done out of the threat just yet. And as previously mentioned, there's some other warnings around the area. And Jared, I think there's another warning, and I do believe that's Union Parish.
All right, so let's take a look at the new tornado warning that's just been issued.
It now includes Farmerville.
Okay, so that's a new tornado warning for Farmerville. So let's kind of reset for a second and kind of get everybody back on the same page. We've got now 3 tornado warnings, one in effect for portions of Bradley and Drew County, that one until 8:30. New tornado warning now issued for much of Union Parish. That includes Farmerville until 9 o'clock tonight, and then another tornado warning for Grant Parish and LaSalle Parish, West Central LaSalle Parish, until 9 o'clock tonight as well. 2 of the newest warnings, let's kind of jump to those really quickly, and we'll go to the Union Parish storm. This is a tornado that is possible near Farmerville. In fact, it will be right over Farmerville or just north of downtown Farmerville at this point. You can see it behind me, the reds and greens here. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado just west of Farmerville, 21 miles northeast of Ruston, moving east at 40 miles per hour. So again, this is a new tornado warned storm. This is the live storm tracker Doppler radar. You can see the reds and greens right here. We're hitting this at about 2,100 feet. So we're getting a pretty good low scan at this storm just to the north of Farmerville. I'm going to zoom in really closely on this. Walker, I'll let you take the Grant Parish storm in just a second. But what we really need to focus on, Highway 2, here's the Marion Highway, here's Hudson Road, here's the Campbell and Duluth communities. There's Quigley up there on the top right-hand side of your screen. And here's Main Street right through Farmerville and Highway 2. Looks like our possible tornado is just north of Highway 2 in Farmerville, moving to the northeast. It will be impacting areas like Hudson Road. Act now. Get to your safe place, interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible if you're in this area here. Go ahead.
Just really quickly, they are not planning to reissue the tornado warning that's in Bradley and Drew counties. The tornado threat has passed for those counties, so just FYI, that tornado warning will be allowed to expire at 8:30.
Okay, so now basically they have two tornado warnings. The one that really prompted our coverage to start has weakened and has moved into southern Arkansas, but now have been joined by two different tornado warned storms. And we're going to bounce back and forth between a few different radar modes because, again, moving down into the southern extents of the Arklamis, I'll be honest, the Fort Polk radar is going to have the best look. This is going to be the Pollock communities. Highway 165, 167, you know those areas kind of meet in Alexandria. Here's the Ball community, which is just outside of our area into Rapides Parish. But here's 165, here's 167. There's your possible tornado right there to the west of Pollock. I'll switch over to the storm relative velocity, and you can see those reds and greens. And anytime you see that little plume of green, that usually means that you're seeing some strong winds within the thunderstorm. And then there's your possible tornado. Here is Hewart Road, Dyson Creek Road, and then here's Pollock along 165. Pollock has been a tendency to be a kind of almost a tornado magnet, unfortunately, in the last few years. Dry Prong, which is just outside of the tornado warning. So here's 167 and 165, and our possible tornado is sandwiched in between. So if you know someone that's driving from Alexandria to Monroe along 165 or to Columbia or some of those areas, make sure that they are in their safe place now. Interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. If you're on the roads, pull over, find a safe place, a grocery store, a gas station. Anything's better than being on the road in these areas at this point. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on that particular storm because of the storm that is now moving through northern sections of Farmerville. And this is why, especially when you have so many tornado warnings or multiple tornado warnings, it makes sense to just kind of bounce back and forth. Our possible tornado is now north of Farmerville. Will continue to advance north and east. Marion, we're talking to you folks, kind of the lead time there. You got 10, 15, 20 minutes of lead time. Get to your safe place there. And as this storm continues to move north and eastward, still perhaps producing a tornado just to the north of Farmerville. Again, we'll keep an eye on this storm along with the Grant Parish storm as well. In fact, if you want to go to the wall here in just a minute, Walker, and talk about that Grant Parish storm, we'll try to get a new update from the National Weather Service. And here's a new tornado warning. This one for Ouachita Parish. All right, so before we even get there, let's go to the new Ouachita Parish storm. This is a tornado warning for northeastern Ouachita Parish. This includes the Swartz community. National Weather Service Doppler radar indicating a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. I see it already. Near Stubbs-Vinson Road, right off Roland Road. I'm going to take this to the wall real quick. If we'll pop us up on the wall, and we'll take a look very closely. Walker, you may want to run links too. We may want to zoom in real close on this. Here's the Eastwood Estates community, Hidden Oaks, Belmead. Here's the Lakeshore community, and I'm trying to get my bearings here, but here's our possible tornado here. Across the Hidden Oaks community. If you see some of these roads, Walker, you may want to kind of holler them out to me. I know the area, but it's kind of stuff to see. I know this is Stubbs Ritchie Road right here, and here's Stubbs Vinson Road. So again, we're out in
Sunny Day Road, Sawyer Road. I see the Stubbs Ritchie Road as well. Audubon Park. including portions, Country Acres, Hancock, Swan Lake Road is a little bit further northeast of this area, Jared.
I've got it now, because here's Lincoln Road, which comes out of Lakeshore going towards Swartz, and eventually you'd hang a right and you'll be in the Stubbs-Vinson Road, Stubbs-Ritchie Road area. This is our possible tornado right here. Again, this is a new tornado warning till 9 o'clock for northern and northeastern sections of Ouachita Parish. We can't spend all of our time on this Ouachita Parish storm because we've got the Farmerville storm and we've got the Grant Parish storm as well, but this is going to be, what is this road right here? Well, Sawyer Road.
Yep. Sunny Day into Sawyer Road.
Okay, Sunny Day and Sawyer Road. Here's Stubbs-Ritchie. Again, if you're in these areas, these roads even sound somewhat familiar. Safe place now. Interior portion of your home away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, it's going to move very quickly off to the north and east. So this is a new tornado warned storm in this area. I'll step back off the screen for a second. Walker, I'll let you jump back over to links 2. We'll take a closer look at the Grant Parish storm in just a minute. But clearly, and now the National Weather Service is confirming a tornado on the ground north of Farmerville. So that storm now has a debris signature on radar in Farmerville. So stick with us for just a second. Go ahead and turn the hand tracker off. It's messing with both computers. And I think it's still on that particular machine. But let's take a look over at what's going on in Farmerville. Again, this is a confirmed tornado on the ground now. Radar confirmed tornado just to the north of Farmerville. I'm going to switch over and you can see this light blue right here. That's your tornado debris signature. Basically lofted debris from a tornado that has been on the ground north of Farmerville moving to the northeast. Marion, we're talking to you folks. Get to your safe place now. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Shreveport radar picking up that circulation right here. We're going to zoom in real close on this here in just a second and get the best look at it we can. You can see the our live storm tracker Doppler radar also has this as well. So let's zoom in really, really close, and actually I'm going to use the National Weather Service and Shreveport's radar. Here's the Deluder community, Sweet Lily Road. Again, if these roads sound familiar, get to your safe place now. We're starting to move into relatively rural sections of portions of Union Parish, but you can see Linville and the Hale communities off to the far right-hand side of your screen, Buffalo Hole Road on the bottom side. Here's Hudson Road. Again, Sweet Lily Road. Here's our possible tornado. Actually, not even possible. Radar-confirmed tornado on the ground in Union Parish. Daniel Road, Game Reserve Road, here's your tornado again with the latest updated radar image. So again, this is a confirmed tornado on the ground, and also a new tornado warning has been issued downstream into Morehouse Parish, I believe. So we've got, or at least we will have one. So we've got 3 different tornado warnings. Confirmed tornado on the ground in portions of Union Parish. Possible tornado in northeastern sections of Union Parish, Ouachita Parish, although that storm looks a little bit weaker. And then again, looking at Grant and LaSalle parishes, we have not forgot about you folks. Taking a look at this storm, which continues to show a possible tornado along Highway 165. So the reds and greens right there. Here's Pollock, just to the north of Pollock, I would say by about 1.5 miles, right along 165. Here's Highway 8 that goes from Pollock to Gina. This storm will kind of move right along Highway 8, or kind of move parallel to it as it moves off to the north and east. The atmosphere really kind of taking advantage of the what's been in place all day, and finally getting us some tornado warnings, Walker. Not that we really wanted to see them, unfortunately, but that's what we're going to deal with, at least here in the short term. Latest rotation in this Ouachita Parish storm, Stubbs-Vinson Road, again out towards Sawyer Road, hasn't really moved much. I will say it looks a little bit weaker than it did a few minutes ago. But for folks in eastern sections of Ouachita Parish, you need to be in your safe place now. Again, interior portion of your home away from windows and doors. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And then we're going to go back to the radar-confirmed tornado that is now northeast of Farmerville that will head toward Marion. Again, this is Sweet Lily Road area. I'm trying to find out which highway this is going from Farmerville to Marion. But either way, you can see the possible tornado here, or again, radar confirmed tornado, and continue to kind of keep an eye on some of our information.
Jared, I'm seeing Concord Street as well as Quigley. They're within that tornado warning, very close to that potential tornado, that circulation that you mentioned, Jared. I'm seeing Tiger Bend Road into
Here's
Marion.
Concord Street.
Tiger Bend Road is a little bit further southeast from Concord, and again, Quigley would likely be in direct pathing almost of that potential rotation there,
Yeah,
Jared.
right there. The Quigley community as you just mentioned, in the Duluth community. Sweet Lily Road, we continue to kind of call you folks out. Here's Marion. We're zoomed in on Marion and Arkansas Road going through Linville. These are all areas that could be impacted by this possible or this radar-confirmed tornado. Again, a few minutes ago, the National Weather Service radar was able to confirm a tornado on the ground. You can see this lofted area of yellows basically showing radar lofted debris, whether it's trees or structural damage. We don't know. It's there. And again, that shows that at least at one point there was a tornado on the ground. So at that point, the National Weather Service confirms it, tells us that there has been or was a tornado on the ground, and that just kind of ups the verbiage, if you will, for those areas. Continue to keep an eye on this tornado-warned storm near Stubbs-Vinson and out towards Stubbs-Ritchie and the Sawyer Road area. Again, not as organized as it was earlier, and to be honest with you, with 3 different tornado warnings, you kind of have to bounce back and forth between all these different storms because you don't really want anybody to be left out, especially as these storms continue to change so quickly. So we bounce back over to the Grant Parish storm. Haven't forgot about you folks. In fact, this storm has at times probably been the strongest one out of the 3 in terms of its circulation. And here's the latest update from the National Weather Service in Shreveport. National Weather Service Doppler radar indicates a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado about 11 miles north of Ball, 16 miles north of Pineville, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. So generally about 3 miles north of Pollock, just east of 165. Here's Highway 8. So again, it will basically run parallel. Gina, you're in the tornado warning. You need to be in your safe place now, interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a new tornado warning coming soon downstream from Ouachita Parish into southern sections of Morehouse Parish. Just be on the lookout in this area right here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a new tornado warning probably in the next 2 to 3 minutes with the storm that's exiting Ouachita Parish. Again, it's kind of dancing along the Ouachita-Morehouse line, and then we'll also, again, continue to kind of double back to the Farmerville storm, more specifically the Union Parish storm, which continues to rotate very violently near, in and around Marion, Highway 2, and then points farther northeastward toward Marion. This is our spot right here that we've been watching. This was radar confirmed at one point, meaning that the radar could confirm that a tornado had touched down. Whether it's still on the ground or not, we don't know. And again, but it is headed very close to the Marion community. You folks have had a good 20 minutes lead time from this storm as it continues to move off to the north and east. And obviously, we'll continue to kind of keep an eye on all of these as they develop and move through our area. Now, I'm just going to zoom back out across the rest of the region and show you the 3 different tornado warnings. All of them, I believe, going until the top of the 9 o'clock hour from Union Parish. This tornado warning includes portions of Farmerville and points eastward. Again, tornado watch remains in effect for a lot of these areas as well. But again, Union Parish until 9 o'clock. Northeastern Ouachita Parish until 9 o'clock. Grant LaSalle Parish until 9 o'clock. So all 3 of these warnings go for about another 23 minutes or so. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see a new tornado warning. There's the new tornado warning for portions of Morehouse Parish until 9:30. So again, this is a new tornado warning that has just been issued kind of what we call downstream. We had a tornado warning for northeastern Ouachita Parish. This is now moving out of the parish, and so a new warning is needed. And so this tornado warning is going to include southeastern sections of Morehouse Parish, far northwestern reaches of Richland Parish, and western sections of West Carroll Parish until 9:30 tonight. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Swartz, moving northeast, again, 50 miles per hour. So still having, and also damage now being reported along Highway 2 near Scott's Hideaway Road in Union Parish. Trees and power lines down west of Farmerville. A tree down on a vehicle, or actually a tree is down and a vehicle has struck that tree. LA 15 near Highway 549. And this is, again, at the intersections of 15 and 49 there in Union Parish. So clearly some severe thunderstorm wind damage, whether that's a tornado or not, we just don't know. Walker?
Yeah, Jared, we're still monitoring that potential rotation down south as well, looking at it's now crossing over in between Grant into LaSalle Parish, so folks likely within the White Sulphur Springs community is fairly close to this potential rotation as well, and that's what we're going to continue to monitor through the rest of the evening now as far as that goes. Now, Jared, I'm going to hop back on the wall. I don't know if you want to put me back on the storm that's a little bit further south because there's still relatively strong circulation there, and there's also another warning just to the west of this warning. It's just, you can just now see it over towards the Natchitoches region, but it's not in our area just yet, something that we're going to have to monitor, but this circulation in general is still fairly strong and holding itself together. It's just now exiting the Grant Parish region, entering the LaSalle region, and so folks within Gina, you are still within this tornado warning. It's still very imperative for you to be in that safe place, regardless of where the circulation is within the tornado warning. There's a reason why the warnings are so broad to begin with, given the general erratic nature that tornadoes or potential tornadoes can have, and it's clearly well defined as of this point, the reds and the greens there. As the radar starts to update itself, it always needs to update to make sure we have some of the latest information. But regardless of some of the heavier winds, some heavier rain certainly still setting up shop as well. Frequent lightning with a lot of these storms, but just in general, this thing is going to continue to move over towards the north and east here. And just like the other two tornado warnings that we have, this goes until 9. Now, I do believe we did get an updated warning just a few minutes ago for our other storm of a little bit further north there. And I do believe that the National Weather Service out of Jackson has taken over issuing tornado warnings for our Ouachita Parish, now into Morehouse Parish storm as well. And so folks within western portions of West Carroll Parish there, you're also within that potential tornado warning there, so you want to make sure you're in your safe place. As far as East Carroll Parish goes, not included as of this point. That could change here in the near future, but quite the setup that we have currently speaking. 4 tornado warnings, 3 of them are within our area, the 4th one just outside, and this is really what I was talking about, the fact that we have 2 isolated storms out ahead of the main system that also have general supercell structure. So this is one supercell structure. This is going to be another one further south, but also the line itself is also still relatively problematic, bringing up a few different tornado warnings as well. So we're going back in on the storm that's located just outside of Ouachita Parish, crossed over into Morehouse Parish as of this point.
This thing's a mess, Walker. Even for our area, I would say that there's the area of rotation is southeast of Collinston in this area right here. This next swipe's going to help us out a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of in that same general area. Not necessarily, kind of getting the back side of this storm from our radar, so it doesn't necessarily look like we can see all that much. That said, heed the tornado warnings. Make sure that you're in your safe place and all those things. But again, with other tornado warned storms, this Union Parish storm looks like it's starting to gust out a little bit. Maybe more of a damaging wind producer. It's still rotating near Marion, but it looks to be perhaps gusting out a little bit more, meaning that maybe it's more of a damaging wind producer than it is a tornado producer at this point. The storms to the south are probably the healthier ones in terms of their environment, at least here in the short term. This storm to the southwest of Gina along Highway 8, this is probably the strongest storm that we have right now, and I'm going to zoom in real quick. This is Big Bend Road, and there's Camp Hartner on the west side of the screen, right over here. Here's Big Bend Road, and there's our possible tornado. White Sulphur Springs, there's Highway 8, and again, Gina's up on the top right-hand side of your screen. In fact, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see Gina and Fellowship and some of these other surrounding areas. But there's our possible tornado as it continues to trail off to the northeast. Now, east of Highway 65, but still rotating very, very hard, meaning that there's still some very strong winds and nothing really indicating that a tornado is on the ground, but it'll be in that area right there, continuing to move off to the north and east into LaSalle Parish. So starting to exit Grant Parish, but still a very dangerous storm. Again, that tornado warning goes until 9 o'clock tonight. Also keeping an eye on that storm back to the west of Natchitoches, really looking mean on radar, although it's not impacting our area yet. That could be a sign of something that we deal with a little bit later on. Walker?
Thanks, Jared. Again, that circulation with that storm that's just outside of our area. I was taking a look at it just a handful of minutes ago, and that circulation is still relatively put together, but our focus continues to be 2 storms that we have just south of the state line and northeast of the Monroe area. So right along Bastrop, you're likely not in that tornado warning. It's the heavier rainfall, not even aligning with Bastrop, but folks just south of that or southeast of it, you're going to be included in that tornado warning. Jared has circled that potential tornado there, that rotation that we're still monitoring as of this point. And it's like I've said it best, and Jared said it best too over the last several minutes to 30 minutes to an hour here, is the fact that these things can spin up or spin down rather quickly. So in the event that this thing doesn't really look too strong, we look away from it for 5 minutes, look back, and all of a sudden it's strong again. So that's why we have to pay very quick attention, very close attention, and treat everything almost anew and not let it get too monotonous through the rest of the evening as well. So this tornado warning still included for Union Parish as of this time, northeastern portions of Union Parish as far as Morehouse Parish goes, not the western portions. It's going to be the eastern portions of Morehouse Parish as well. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because obviously tornado warnings are very big. The parishes, they're going to be even bigger than some of those tornado warnings. And again, a tornado is going to impact a very, very small portion of folks if it's actually there to begin with. And so that's why you kind of have to break things down, not just by area, but by the specific area or parish that you're currently in. And as previously discussed, these warnings do go until 9 p.m. The time now only 8:44. So at minimum, we're looking at another 15 minutes for this storm over towards our north and west. That's going to be in Union Parish, and until 9:30 for this storm. That does include West Carroll, and as previously mentioned, not yet including East Carroll Parish, but that could surely change given the general nature of some of these storms. And despite what the tornado warning might be trying to convey in terms of how it's moving or where it's moving or in the manner that it's moving, they can be very erratic. So a lot of times you can even see a tornado maybe exit just west of the box or south of the box, something like that, and they'll have to draw a new one. That's not too out of the ordinary, so do keep in mind that there's a reason why that these are so broad to begin with, even though they're only impacting a very small area. It's just they're very erratic. That's just the general nature of things just in total. I notice you're still trying to pick up on that rotation, Jared. It's still vaguely there. I'm trying to notice it at least.
Yeah, and like I said, it's still a very strong wind-producing storm. It's this area of purple to the south of Marion that's probably the most concerning, at least here in the short term. And again, with the tornado warnings that continue to pop up, we're going to continue to stay on the air. Again, that's just how, again, things are done here. I know that we've plowed through the entire season finale of The Voice. I am completely 110% aware of that, and I know it's very disappointing. We can watch it tomorrow. But we're going to have to stay on these tornado warnings. There's 3 different ones. We had an EF3 2 weeks ago in Caldwell Parish that literally scoured the ground off, scoured the top layer of soil because it was so strong. And again, that caused structural damage. These storms have a history of producing wind damage. In fact, this Union Parish storm, we're still getting the damage reports from Union Parish, and there's also some areas that are indicating that we could be even seeing some small hail. So again, these are very dangerous storms. We don't like to sit here and talk ad nauseum and repeat ourselves over and over and over again and get all these mean emails. We don't like doing this, but we have to do it to keep people safe. And again, entertainment's entertainment. It is what it is, and again, we're going to be here until at least 9:30 or until these tornado warnings are canceled, and then you'll get your programming back. That's just how things are done here. Power lines down on Camp Road in Farmerville. We were kind of talking around that area earlier. In fact, the police department is responding to multiple mobile homes that have been damaged in Farmerville. So again, this is considered what I would consider tornado damage. We can't confirm that it was a tornado, but we have a lot of damage in and north of Farmerville with these storms as they've moved through. So again, these are storms that have a history of producing damage. It's not just a radar that makes it look really scary and things of that nature. These are storms that now have a history of producing tornado damage or at least wind damage in our area. So again, we're just going to have to preach patience and apologize later for stepping on programming, but we're going to stay here and continue to do what we're doing here with these tornado warned storms. Southeast of Georgetown, northwest of Highway 8, still keeping an eye on this tornado warned storm in Grant and LaSalle parishes. Gina and points westward, you're all still under that tornado warning again until 9 o'clock. So you got about another 12 minutes on that warning. Continue to keep an eye on the other storms to the north and east. Again, we're going to have to switch to a bunch of different radar modes to kind of keep tabs on everything because each storm really, to be honest with you, is being covered by a different radar a little bit better. Keeping an eye on this storm circulation, which is still very, very messy to the east of Collinston, in eastern sections of Morehouse Parish, into western portions of West Carroll Parish. That tornado warning remains in effect. And then out over portions of Union Parish as well. This is a storm that has continued to show some very strong signs of wind damage potential. Maybe not a tornado, although we've started to see those reds and greens kind of tighten back up together to the east of Marion. So this general area here, if it's not producing a tornado, it's certainly producing maybe some 60 to 70 mile an hour winds as this continues to move east. So again, the storms themselves continue to kind of flex and take a deep breath in this environment and breathing in all of this warm, humid air, and with the directional wind shear, the very strong winds associated with the environment currently, that's why we're seeing these tornado-warned storms. Walker?
Thanks, Jared. It's also a little bit of good news to see some of the rain actually moving. Now, I know a lot of the stuff that's moving around has allowed for some tornadoes to develop potentially, but also it was a very concerning sight to see a lot of the heavier thunderstorm activity aligning with the exact same places. And so flash flood warnings were a little bit of a concern, especially for a lot of folks in Union County in South Arkansas, as this line was just a few miles over towards the west here. But I really want to describe what we have currently set up across the area. This is our main line of storms, that main cold front-esque driven storms, and a lot of spin-up activity is possible there, but also some of the isolated stuff that we see spanning from Bastrop all the way down into Columbia and just south, and in terms of included Gina now in that tornado warning for LaSalle Parish. So you really have a two-pronged approach. It's going to be the cold front itself, isolated stuff ahead of the front, and this is exactly why both do have a potential to throw some type of tornado potential into the mix. Now, we haven't seen we've been paying attention to the storm that's in Natchitoches Parish as of this point. They have not issued another tornado warning for it. We're still going to keep our eye on that, though, as well.
Walker, real quick, and again, I don't want to jump the gun too much on what we're getting from Union Parish, but there is now reports of multiple injuries. Multiple EMS resources are being dispatched to the areas north of Farmerville. Again, I don't want to go into a whole lot of speculation about stuff that, quite frankly, we don't know about, but it does appear as though some apparent tornado damage has been experienced north of Farmerville. This is the storm that's moving into northeastern sections of Union Parish. It now has a history of producing damage and perhaps injuries. As soon as we get more information about what's going on there, we'll get you back to that. And I'm working to get more information on that as we work on these other storms. But again, just a reminder that these storms now have a history of producing some very violent winds, specifically this one storm in northeastern Union Parish, Morehouse Parish, West Carroll Parish. This storm has been kind of mischievous and kind of sneaky in terms of what it's been doing, but still producing some heavy rain in these areas as well. Well, Walker, as soon as I know more, I'll pass it along.
Thanks, Jared. And again, it's obviously very concerning hearing some of that information, but that's why we say things like be in your most interior portion of your home and away from outside windows or doors, because in the event that some type of tornado or potential circulation moves in your direction, that's just going to be your best bet, is being in the interior most portion of your home and just being away from any potential debris as far as possible. But as previously mentioned, these storms down south have stayed quite strong. I'm sure the circulations are still holding themselves together quite well also. But really just given it's fairly unfortunate the fact we have two tornado warnings that are in effect right at the state line. And then you go all the way down to the southernmost portion of our viewing area. And then we also have more tornado warnings there. So very unfortunate. You can't really focus on one set. It's a very widespread deal that we have as of this point. But notice most of us aren't seeing severe weather. And so that's going to continue to be the case this evening. So don't expect it, but be able to act in the event that you are included in a tornado warning, such as folks that are in Gina. So you want to go ahead and be in your safe place. If you are recognizing this map or this portion of the map in any way, shape, or form, I do advise you to get into your safe place, and that includes you and your entire family, if you will, as well. And so a lot of folks are like, how can they follow you to the bathroom? You're watching me on TV. We have a stream on Facebook. You can go on any mobile device and find that stream. Just go ahead and find it on your mobile device and get to your safe place regardless. Do not hang around the TV. That's definitely not going to be an area there. But we have seen some type of hail with some storms earlier this afternoon in South Arkansas. I got a report from a viewer of seeing some dime to nickel-sized hail. And so that's still going to be a possibility, although it's not a huge threat through the evening. It's still going to remain a possibility. And so I was looking at some of the reflectivity there, Jared, as you look at this tornado-warned storm, that potential circulation still east of Mer Rouge as of this point, east of Bastrop, west of Forest. And this is what we call, you can kind of see that potential rotation there, Jared. Jared. But again, you want to be in your safe place if you're within this area as well. Heavy rainfall is going to set up shop, so that's not the telltale sign of a potential tornado, and that's going to be the rotation itself. So even if you hear the heavy rainfall, that's not a good idea to freak yourself out or anything of that nature. But some of these heavier reflectivities, Jared, some of the purples very well could be putting together some small hail along with that tornado threat.
Yeah, and like I said, these storms now have a history of producing damage. So so please heed the warnings. If you were looking at them on radar to begin with, and you really weren't seeing things, that's a new severe thunderstorm warning off to the north and east, by the way. Again, that's severe thunderstorm warning, Ashley County, northern Morehouse Parish till 9:45.
It's likely taking over for that tornado warning, Jared. I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a tornado possible tag potentially with this severe thunderstorm warning. And again, as they pass it off from one National Weather Service to the other National Weather Service office, they can kind of change the warning sometimes. Maybe they're not noticing as strong of a circulation in this area. They're going to give the tornado possible tag potentially. But the severe thunderstorm warning, Jared, do you know why that's into effect? 60-mile-an-hour winds maybe?
Yep, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and could also, again, see some large hail in some of these spots. The hail was not really that big of a concern to start the day, but now we're starting to see a little bit bigger concern in that regard. Again, just continuing to kind of bounce back and forth between a lot of different radar modes, and I know that a lot of this looks like a lot of gobbledygook and just a mess on the radar screen, and to be honest with you, it looks like that to us at times as well. Still looking at strong wind signatures, not necessarily a tornado, but this storm has a history of producing either tornado or wind damage when it was in Farmerville, and it continues to crawl off to the north and east, and there's still those reds and greens combining together at times within this storm. And then there's this other storm that is now east of Bastrop, will be crossing into West Carroll Parish. It's that area right there that we are now watching. And again, I know it doesn't look like much, and it looks like a big mess on the radar screen, and a lot of folks are just sick of seeing the radar. I would agree with you, but again, these tornado-warned storms are very dangerous, menacing storms that need to be heeded. Again, we've got a lot of history of wind damage. In fact, I'm going to check back over to the National Weather Service. Still getting a lot of damage for a lot of damage reports coming into Union Parish. The Farmerville area, in fact, there's still some heavy thunderstorm activity that's moving through these areas as we speak. So we'll be watching for potential impacts in those spots. And then back out to the south, we still have the other tornado warning. An updated message from the National Weather Service has severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 10 miles southwest of Goodwill. This is this Morehouse Parish storm. So again, just east of Bastrop here, moving to the north and east. So again, still a possible tornado being indicated there. And again, also keeping an eye on the reports coming from Union Parish. Meanwhile, we still have another tornado-warned storm off to our south. This storm looks a little bit weaker as it moves toward Gina and along Highway 84. Again, that's the red line here is Highway 84 moving out of Winfield to Gina. That's where we have a tornado-warned storm. This goes until 9 o'clock. So a lot of these warnings are going to be expiring at the top of the hour, and we'll either need new tornado warnings or something along those lines to carry us through. Fox 14 News at 9 is getting ready to start here in a short period of time, and again, at least the early part of it will just be our continued weather coverage. For those that are along the I-20 corridor, again, tornado watch remains in effect, but most of your threats are either north or south of the interstate. We had the one tornado-warned storm in northeastern Ouachita Parish. That's the storm that has now moved into Morehouse and West Carroll parishes. And again, the wind damage or tornado damage producing storm that has moved out of Farmerville and should be moving into northwestern sections of Morehouse Parish, a new severe thunderstorm warning taking the place for that one. This tornado warning for Morehouse Parish goes until 9:30 tonight. You still have this little structure of a possible tornado here, kind of on the southeastern edge. Walker, if you want to talk more about that, I'll zoom in for you.
Right, and that includes West Carroll Parish as of this point in that tornado warning. East Carroll Parish has not been included just yet. But again, like I was mentioning earlier, we have to look at the structure of some of these isolated storms because that's going to be a little bit better of a telltale sign if it's able to produce a tornado. And this looks fairly similar to some type of supercell-esque structure there. And you can almost see some type of inflow notch potentially where some of those winds might be working into the system and then trying to spin back up again. And as previously mentioned, not too out of the ordinary to see something try to look like it's falling apart and then maybe strengthening back up together. It all has to do with the environment that it's running into. So say the areas in West Carroll Parish are a little bit more favorable, then it would spin back up. If it was unfavorable, maybe it would spin back down. So that's kind of how things work. It's like a moving car. If the moving car is moving into traffic, it's going to have some problems, things of that nature. If there's no traffic, well, that car is going to have no issues whatsoever. And if there's a favorable environment, then sometimes these circulations could try to hold themselves together. So you still need to be in your safe place, especially if you're within this tornado warning, as well as the severe thunderstorm warning that's just north of here. That includes northern portions of Morehouse Parish. As previously mentioned, the Union County storm is now moving into Morehouse Parish. It did have the history of producing some type of tornadic signature or some type of wind damage potentially earlier this evening. So that's why it's very important for you to stay there as well. And it looks like, Jared, you got some of the power outages up here. And what we're looking at in Morehouse, or Union Parish, 18% of the parish without power, 2,500 people potentially without power as well.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of take a quick check of that and see where we were power outage-wise in some of these tornado-warned areas. Looks like the Grant-LaSalle storm will be allowed to expire. There may be a severe thunderstorm warning needed for that. So I think our 2 9 o'clock warnings will expire without any additional warnings being needed, but we'll still have that 9:30 warning for Morehouse Parish and West Carroll Parish. We're getting a lot of unconfirmed reports from Farmerville and the surrounding areas, and we just don't want to relay that information until, again, we get some better ideas of just confirmed information from that area. But the early reports that we're getting from Farmerville and points northward along the Camp Road community are not really that good. We've gotten reports of structural damage and tree damage, a lot of power lines down, and a lot of these areas, emergency crews are struggling with the heavy thunderstorms that are currently moving through Farmerville to get support services there. So again, we'll keep you updated as we know more. Still keeping an eye on this tornado-warned storm that is moving eventually toward Oak Grove and Forest. This is Oak Grove in West Carroll Parish, not the Oak Grove that we were dealing with earlier south of the I-20 corridor. Again, I know this is a very jumbled group of area of radar returns. It's kind of tough to see, and so you kind of have to rely on what you know from thunderstorms. And Walker was just kind of talking about the structure associated with it. If there's going to be a tornado, it's going to be in this general area here, and along with that, heavy rain and hail possibilities to the east of Marouge, and then points farther north and east, Oak Grove, Forest, West Carroll Parish, all need to keep themselves just in mind as the storm moves through. And in fact, those reds and greens are starting to kind of wrap back up a little bit closer together right along the West Carroll Parish line. Again, I know this doesn't look like much, and I know we've been repeating the same thing over and over and over again, but there are folks that are just now getting home, just now getting to a TV, and to be honest with you, it's our job to repeat ourselves. So we're